All right, friends, we're gonna get started on our mini landscapes that you guys saved images for. I'm gonna start by dividing my paper up into 4 rectangles. If you wanna use your ruler, that's totally fine. I'm just gonna freehand them. I think it looks nice too. I'm just kinda dividing my paper in half vertically and horizontally. So I kind of have even spacing, but this is not exact science here. So I'm just creating 4 little windows for my 4 little mini landscapes, like so. Like this. And then I'm going to label each one of them with our 4 different color schemes we talked about. And I want you to do that too. My pencil's not very sharp. So I think I will do monochromatic, and you can do them in any order, but I'm going to do them this way. Monochromatic, complementary, I spelled it right this time, warm, and cool. I'm gonna get a fresh pencil here. Then the next thing we're gonna do is kind of just loosely block out and pencil the landscape itself. Some people chose to just do one image and then they're gonna do it in the 4 different color schemes, or you can use 2 and maybe do 1 for monochromatic and complementary and 1 for warm and cool, which is what I think I'm going to do today. Or you can do a different one on all 4. It's totally up to you how much creativity you want to use. So for my monochromatic landscape, I'm doing kind of a mountain scene with some trees in front, and there's some clouds kind of blocked out in the background, and I'm just doing a real light touch because our watercolor is going to go over it. We don't want to see these lines later, and we can always erase too after our watercolor dries. So I'm just kind of breaking it up. And you know, landscapes are kind of organic lines, so you don't have to worry about being exact to the picture. You're trying to give this suggestion, but you are the artist. If you need to change something, you know, that is your prerogative as the artist. And I'm gonna have a foreground that is kind of dark, kind of treed area here. So I've got my mountains in the back, and then all these kind of dark treetops. And I'll kind of layer over them. And trees, especially off in the distance, are very vague. Go off like that. I'm going to do the same composition for my complementary scene. You can be working on your own as you're watching my video if you'd like, and looking at your own images and sketching out what you're going to paint. My 2 images are not going to be exactly the same because I'm human, but I'm going to do my best here. This dark foreground of trees. Like so. And then I'm going to do another image for my warm and cool. I think I'm going to do kind of an ocean scene. We've got some kind of hillside around. It's kind of a peninsula coming out into the ocean. And then it comes back around. And it's not an exact line. It comes right up close in the foreground with some rocks. And there's some clouds I want to show up here. Make sure I have those. Real basic. And then I'm going to do the same thing over here. And the clouds. All right, we'll pause there and let everybody get their little images drawn. All right. Once you have everything drawn in, the first thing we're going to do is paint in the lightest values first and kind of go over the whole thing. And that's what we're going to do today. We're going to do any blotting we need to do with a paper towel for like clouds or lighter areas. And then we're going to let that dry and come back in and layer, like we did with the complementary colors, layer in our darker values. So with my monochromatic, I'm going to start with that. Get my brushes out of here. Use our lid to make our tint like we practiced. And I'm going to do blue as my monochromatic. You know, if your image, like I'm looking at an image that's a monochromatic blue image, but let's say you're like, I want to recreate this in purple. That is your prerogative of the artist. It just needs to be tints and shades of that one color. So I'm going to come in and I want it to be really light. I might even add a little bit more water right on my paper. I'm going to go over the whole thing. Like so. And I want to come in and blot out some of my clouds. Kind of get your paper towel kind of crinkly and you'll be able to get kind of nice cloud shapes. Like that. All right, that's all I'm going to do on this one to start. I'm going to let that dry a little bit. We might come back to it today, depending on how dry it gets. On my complementary, I'm going to change this monochromatic image to a complementary by adding kind of a sunset. And I know that blue's complement is orange. You can look back at my notes. So I'm going to do kind of a yellow orange as my first layer. Get it nice and wet. And maybe even have some red as it goes down behind the mountainous scene. Coming in. But I might not go over the whole thing today because I'm not layering blue. I'm just going to go over these upper ones because I'm going to overlay blue down low. So I might just block in this warm part, the yellow orange and the oranges and the red orange up here so that I can leave. And maybe I'll go over it like these first layer of mountains will have a reflection of that sunset on it. All right, now I want to block out some of my clouds. Remember, different shapes of the paper towel will make different cloud shapes, like so. Then I could come in with some of this blue tint and layer this in. Get my brush a little more clean. It's making green on me with the yellow in my brush. And I'm still going to layer over these with darker values, but I want to give it kind of a base. Okay, and now I'm going to do block in my first colors for my kind of oceany scene with warm and cool. And now we know that water reflects the image, the colors around it. So I think I'm going to get this nice and orange, maybe even a little red orange, to do my warm color and do the sky and the water and even go over the hillside because I think I'll make that kind of a brown later with my warm colors. I'm just going to do the whole thing in this warm red orange. And later we'll layer over it with some more colors. Watercolor layers so beautifully. And if you start with this translucent and build up opaque, you can get some real depth to your image. Kind of want my watercolor strokes to be in the strokes of like the water waves. And then come in and extract pigment for my clouds. Oh, that's pretty. Kind of want them to get stringy as they go across. Bigger darker in the middle. Again, the fun about watercolor is it's so organic, it's so loose, and it's like full of, as Bob Ross would say, happy accidents that come together. And then as you work kind of opaque, you kind of can get more precise to add a little detail. For my cool ocean scene, I think I'm gonna do kind of purple undertones for kind of a night, like the sun is already set, but there's still some light over the ocean. I really feel like Bob Ross talking you guys through this. Like so. And then come in and get those clouds pulled. Remember, we can erase pencil lines later when everything's dry. Like that. I think I'm going to let this dry for today, and then we're going to come back and layer more on top of these next time. All right, good job today, guys.